A possible deceased individual had been reported, prompting authorities to respond to the scene. While en route, various scenarios were considered, including the likelihood of discovering a body upon arrival. Upon reaching the location, a work crew was present, one typically responsible for winterizing homes and later inspecting them in the spring to ensure their condition.
Stand by a minute. You sure?
Yeah. If you look at her, get up close. She looks.
At the scene, a female body was discovered. Based on her smaller frame and visible hair, it was apparent that the individual was a woman.
What? Do you have gloves?
Yeah. I don't want to move her though.
I was just gonna pour her shirt. Off her collar a little bit.
Look at her finger.
Yeah.
You see her finger, Shane? It's like shot through.
Upon closer examination, she exhibited what appeared to be a defensive wound, consistent with an attempt to shield herself from harm, possibly from a firearm. The injury suggested an effort to block an incoming attack, indicating potential foul play. The victim had sustained a gunshot wound to the head. Law enforcement contacted the coroner to respond to the scene and requested assistance from the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, BCI, to deploy their forensic team for scene processing. Given that 911 callers are sometimes involved in the incidents they report, investigators interviewed the individual who made the call, along with others present at the time, to assess any potential involvement.
So you guys were just here to tear down the garage?
Yeah, man. They sent me his work orders.
Okay. When did you get this? Do you have an extra copy of that by chance?
I don't.
So when were you here previously? Okay. Hey Shane, 4 or 5 days max it looks like. Who all then came with you today?
He's my dad, and those other two guys are my cousins.
The work crew members on site recalled noticing an unfamiliar object in the yard upon their arrival. Initially, they assumed it might have been a discarded Halloween decoration or a prank, given that the property was abandoned. However, upon closer inspection, they realized it was a deceased individual. Investigators requested DNA samples from the crew members for further analysis.
Just hold that and let that dry for a minute.
Right in towards the bottom of your jaw, like right in here. Kind of go back and forth a few times. That's good. And then do the other one with the other side. If you can hold them both, that keeps us from touching them. Then if you just hold them for a few seconds while they dry, then have them drop them in the envelope.
Shortly afterward, the Paulding County coroner arrived and was escorted to the location of the body for examination.
Brain matter on the console.
Yep. Missing upper front tooth. Yeah, her mouth's closed, so. Get a picture of that grass. See that grass is going that way? All right. Huh? Oh yeah, that's going that way, yeah.
Almost looks like there's some drag marks.
Yeah, see that? Yeah, see her shoes are all muddy. So she was drugged right there.
Visible evidence at the scene suggested that the victim had been dragged from the stone driveway into the yard. Faint skid and drag marks were present across the driveway, leading investigators to believe she had been moved post-mortem. The victim was found lying face down with her arms extended above her head, an indication that someone had likely held her arms while dragging her. Additionally, grass and gravel were found on the tops of her shoes, further supporting this theory. During the examination of the driveway, investigators discovered a partial denture near an area consistent with where a vehicle may have been parked. This evidence was documented for further analysis. A closer inspection of the body revealed a bullet projectile lodged at the base of the victim's neck, just inside her collar and over her jacket. The projectile was collected as evidence and was later identified as a 9mm bullet. Recognizing the potential connection to other cases, authorities contacted the Allen County, Indiana Sheriff's Office, and the Fort Wayne Police Department due to the close geographical proximity. Both agencies confirmed they currently had 3 active missing persons cases involving females.
They got a 50 or a 44-year-old that looks really rough. 5'1", blonde hair.
That's her.
It's missing.
She looks bone thinny, bone skinny.
Yeah, she's real thin. Yep. Yep.
That's her.
Schwarz.
Based on the descriptions provided over the phone, the deceased individual found in the yard closely matched the appearance of Wilma Schwarz, who had been reported missing from Fort Wayne on March 9th. Wilma was known for her generosity and kindness, always willing to share what she had with others. Those who knew her spoke of the warmth and selflessness she demonstrated throughout her life. Her sudden and tragic death came as a profound shock to those who cared for her. The news of her murder was both devastating and difficult to comprehend. Wilma grew up in an Amish community where traditional values emphasized domestic skills such as cooking and cleaning for young women. However, as she reached adolescence, she frequently moved in and out of the church, navigating a path that set her apart from the conventional expectations of her upbringing. When Wilma experienced life beyond her Amish upbringing, she fully embraced the freedom it offered. She valued the ability to come and go as she pleased and pursue the outside world with determination. Wilma Schwarz had been reported missing 5 days before her body was discovered in Paulding County, Ohio. This geographic detail immediately raised concerns that the individual responsible for her death may have intentionally moved her body across state lines to complicate the investigation. Authorities found it particularly troubling that Wilma had not been seen or heard from, especially given her close relationship with her son. Her failure to pick him up from school was highly uncharacteristic, heightening concerns that something was terribly wrong. With a 5-day delay between her disappearance and the discovery of her body, law enforcement faced the challenge of tracking down the person responsible. The time gap provided the perpetrator with a significant head start, making the investigation all the more urgent. Detectives now had the critical task of uncovering who committed this crime and determining their whereabouts. The nature of Wilma's injuries suggested that her death was likely personal, indicating a potential connection between the victim and her assailant. In cases like this, it is essential to gather information from those closest to the victim, family, friends, and neighbors, while also working to identify and track down any potential suspects. During the investigation, authorities learned that Wilma had been involved in a tumultuous relationship with her ex-boyfriend, Daniel Zerby Sr., with whom she had been living. Before locating Daniel Zerby Sr., investigators discovered that his son, Daniel Zerby Jr., was currently incarcerated at the Wells County, Indiana jail. An interview was arranged to determine whether Daniel Jr. had been in contact with his father.
Sir, you've been here before, right? Yeah. You got a camera? You got a camera? A microphone? Okay. Okay. Fair? Cool. We'd like to talk to you about something. Officer Dietrich here would like to talk to you about something particular. Okay?
You willing to talk to me after everything you said? All right. This is mainly just to get some history, okay? When did your dad come from Tennessee? Do you know?
Like I hear stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was before when I got arrested. I had to be in the same week before then.
A week before you got arrested?
During the interview, Daniel Jr. revealed that Daniel Sr. and his girlfriend had been living with Wilma at the time. This revelation raised serious concerns, given Wilma's past experiences as a victim of domestic violence at the hands of Daniel Sr. The decision to allow him and his girlfriend to stay with her appeared to be a troubling dynamic, one that may have played a role in the circumstances leading to her death.
I don't know her last name. She used to be married to me. I just can't think of her last name.
Okay. You know her as Lisa?
But she was married to your Uncle Leroy?
Before. Yeah.
How long before? Years?
10 years.
10 years?
Yeah, it's been a
Okay,
while.
but then
I was like 5.
her and your dad became a couple.
As
Good.
far as I know.
Do you know how long they've been a couple?
Not really. Like,
Months, years?
not probably not. It was just out of prison. So probably not years. Not 2 months. If it was.
Okay.
Daniel Zerby Jr. also disclosed that Lisa King had previously been married to Daniel Zerby Sr.'s brother, Leroy Zerby, further entangling an already complex web of relationships.
Your dad, what did he go to prison for? Wasn't around here. Wasn't local.
It was something about meth or something. Making meth.
You know?
Yeah, it was about that. As far as I'm pretty sure.
You talk to your dad quite a bit, don't you?
I'm more hearsay. Like I hear from my uncles and stuff.
The situation was volatile, involving ex-girlfriends, current partners, domestic violence, and narcotics, an environment where tensions could easily escalate. However, while a history of violence can indicate a dangerous individual, it does not necessarily mean they are capable of committing homicide.
She never said she was worried your dad was going to kill her.
Not to me.
What would have... I know you've been in here, so you don't, you know...
I just hear stuff, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I try-
But you know your dad, you know Wilma, what could have happened?
Wilma never left her son. She dropped her son off. She would never leave her son sitting there waiting at school. I know that for a fact.
Right.
Following the interview with Daniel Jr., detectives gained further insight into Wilma Schwarz's history and her turbulent relationship with Daniel Zerby Sr. The new information reinforced the investigators' belief that Zerby Sr. was their primary suspect, leading them to intensify their focus on him. As the investigation progressed, authorities received word that Lisa King had been arrested in Cook County, Illinois. Given her close ties to Zerby Sr., it was decided that officers would be dispatched to Chicago to interview her and determine whether she had any knowledge of Wilma's death.
How you doing, Lisa?
Yeah, all right. How are you?
This is Gary Dietrich.
Hi.
He's handling the investigation also. Looking some stuff that we need to talk to you about.
I tried to help all you get, but then I don't know how to explain that. But I understand
bad
I've got a
situation.
job to do.
I'm not beating you up.
I know you're not.
I think you were just a lady that
A bad situation that you've got yourself into, and now we need to figure out how to get you home.
between the drugs and this monster of a man, I feel you just didn't have a choice in the matter. And for some reason, I don't think you're still being honest with us.
I said,
if you
y'all
aren't-
said if it was different, I would tell you. But it's not. I mean, I can't sit here and tell you something that's not true. You know, I don't know how to explain.
That wouldn't help our case anyway. If you're telling us stuff, just get us shut up.
But I know I wouldn't. But I would help you all, and I've
I'm-
tried to help anybody I can.
I'm just telling you, if there's something that you do know and you ponder whether you need to get help with that, that's time to pull out that card and use it.
I know.
All right. So, if you got any other questions for us, let us know.
Despite investigators' belief that Lisa King possessed crucial information about the case, she refused to cooperate. With no further progress in the interview, authorities were forced to move forward with the investigation. At this stage, there was no direct evidence linking Daniel Zerby Sr. to Wilma Schwarz's homicide. However, detectives knew that Wilma owned a red Pontiac Sunfire, which had not yet been located. In an effort to track down the vehicle, law enforcement issued a public plea for assistance. Within hours of the press release, the Pontiac Sunfire was discovered at a convenience store gas station in Markle, Indiana, just south of Fort Wayne. This discovery was considered a major breakthrough in the case, as it had the potential to provide critical answers. The vehicle was processed by the Fort Wayne Police Department Crime Scene Unit. Upon execution of a search warrant, investigators uncovered significant evidence inside the car. Most notably, the front passenger seat was heavily stained with what appeared to be blood, a discovery that would play a crucial role in advancing the case. Inside the vehicle, investigators found a significant amount of cleanup materials, suggesting an attempt to conceal evidence. Among the most critical discoveries was a spent shell casing, which provided a direct link between the crime scene and the vehicle. With the bullet recovered from the crime scene and the spent casing found in the car, the pieces of the puzzle were beginning to come together. The casing, identified as a 9mm, indicated that Wilma Schwarz had been shot while sitting in the front passenger seat of the Pontiac Sunfire. The trajectory of the gunshot, entering through the left side of her head and passing through her left hand, strongly suggested that the shooter was positioned in the driver's seat at the time of the attack. Additionally, inside the vehicle, investigators recovered a receipt from a home improvement store for recently purchased cleaning supplies. This receipt proved to be a crucial piece of evidence, helping establish a timeline between Wilma's disappearance and the discovery of her body. Wilma's loss left a deep void in the lives of her loved ones, especially her children. She was a mother, sister, and aunt, roles that could never be replaced. Her tragic passing was not a choice, and the impact of her absence would be felt for years. Within the Amish community, her story would be remembered, often in the context of her decision to leave and the heartbreaking way her life ended. Her funeral was especially painful. Dressed in Amish attire, she was laid to rest, a stark contrast to the life she had chosen. The fact that her killer remained at large only heightened the fear. It was a chilling reminder of the dangers that lurked, making people double-check their locks at night and question their sense of security. Investigators reached out to the home improvement store in an effort to identify the individual who had purchased the cleaning supplies. Surveillance footage from the store's parking lot captured a red Pontiac Sunfire pulling into a parking space. A single male exited the vehicle and entered the store, later identified as Daniel Zerby Sr. As the footage progressed, Zerby was seen returning to the counter with cleaning supplies matching those listed on the receipt recovered from the vehicle. He then exited the store and returned to the red Pontiac Sunfire. Additional surveillance footage was obtained from the convenience store, where the Pontiac Sunfire was later found. The video showed a red Dodge Durango pulling up in front of the store, followed shortly by the Pontiac Sunfire, which parked beside it. An unidentified male was seen exiting the Dodge Durango, while Daniel Zerby Sr. stepped out of the Pontiac Sunfire, further establishing a connection between the two vehicles and individuals. Surveillance footage from the convenience store showed the two men entering the store together. After a short time, both individuals exited, and Daniel Zerby Sr. returned to the Pontiac Sunfire, moving it to a different section of the parking lot. The unidentified male then drove the Dodge Durango over to the Sunfire. At that point, Zerby exited the Pontiac Sunfire and got into the Durango. Moments later, a female was seen stepping out of the Pontiac Sunfire, later identified as Lisa King. Lisa King's presence in the Pontiac Sunfire raised serious concerns, particularly given the evidence found inside the vehicle. The front passenger seat, where she had been sitting, was covered with a black trash bag and heavily stained with blood. This directly contradicted her previous statements claiming she had no knowledge of Wilma Schwarz's death, strongly suggesting her involvement. As the investigation progressed, authorities received information from an inmate at the Wells County, Indiana jail. The inmate claimed to have knowledge of Lisa King's role in the homicide, further reinforcing suspicions about her connection to the crime.
Is there anything else you can remember right now?
Lisa says she couldn't understand why he should cut the arm out of the shirt.
His shirt?
Yeah, where I guess the blood had spewed over it. But the shirt, she said, was either in the trunk of the car or at his brother Leroy's house. Do y'all know if that little boy's doing okay?
He's with Wilma's family now. And two of his siblings. Did she tell you what time Wilma was killed? What time of day?
No, I didn't even ask. You know, I didn't. If she would have been here longer, I could have got a lot more out of her. Yeah, that little boy, I dream about it. About him waiting there for Wilma to come pick him up, you know?
Mhm.
And I'm not perfect by no means. I've had my share of trouble. But, you know, that little boy needs justice.
If we need you for court, you're going to be available,
I
right?
promise, yes.
The inmate provided details about the crime that could only have come from someone who was either present when Wilma Schwarz was shot or had been directly informed by someone who was. When a jailhouse informant offers information that aligns with existing video surveillance evidence, it significantly strengthens the case. This provided investigators with crucial leverage to confront Lisa King during a follow-up interview. When presented with the surveillance footage and other evidence, Lisa King appeared to become more forthcoming.
So what happened after that point?
Wilma came to me that night. She said, Lisa, whatever happens with Daniel happens. But that's when she formally asked me if I would be there for her. And I thanked her. Anyway, within the next couple of days, I wound up going back over there. She was in definite fear.
Wilma.
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Scared to death. I mean, it's just obvious.
So you, excuse me, you two had plans at that point. Might not have been definite plans, but you had plans at that point. In so many words, to get out of that crazy situation.
That's right.
Am I summing it up all right? Okay. So you see her the next day,
Yeah.
and that's when she's obviously fearful for her well-being.
Yeah.
You went there in the red car.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything unusual about the red car? Where did you ride?
In the passenger seat, and yeah.
What was unusual?
There was a garbage bag over the
So-
passenger seat, and I asked him what happened, and he said he spilled chemicals in the car, and he had a couple bottles with him, and it reeked. I mean, it reeked.
And could you see anything other than the garbage bag?
Jacket, like laid over, and a little board was there.
Did you see any discoloration on any of that?
No. No, sir.
Any stain?
No, sir.
What was under that bag? Can you tell me what was under that bag?
I don't know.
What do you think was under that bag?
I don't know. I'm scared to say, actually.
What do you think it was?
I don't know. I don't want to know.
Do you think it was chemical? Truthfully.
Now that I look back or think on it, I don't know. I'm scared to look. You follow your gut. You feel, for me,
You're right. What's your gut?
you know, it's something went right.
She expressed uncertainty about Daniel Zerby Sr.'s involvement in Wilma's death, but admitted she was too afraid to question him. Investigators were unable to determine whether her hesitation stemmed from intimidation or if she was deliberately withholding further details about her own involvement. Lisa King was then informed that she had been indicted by the Paulding County Grand Jury for tampering with evidence. Following this, investigators collected DNA samples from her as part of the ongoing investigation.
I've never done this before, so I don't know.
All it is I'm going to put it back in the bottom part of your gum on the one side, then I'll go to the top. I'm just going to twist it around, then I'll go to the other side.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Lisa King informed investigators that the driver of the Dodge Durango, seen in the surveillance footage at the convenience store, was Daniel Zerby Sr.'s brother, Leroy Zerby. Recognizing the importance of his potential knowledge of the case, authorities prioritized locating and questioning him.
You have a seat there. For our privacy. What conversations had you had with your brothers?
During the interview, Leroy Zerby disclosed that he had received multiple text messages and phone calls from his brother, Daniel Sr.
Okay. Looks like he was calling you quite a bit. Yeah. Looks like there's several text messages deleted from him throughout the day there. I mean, it's showing. Yes. I mean, to and from. At 11:05 a.m. It looks like you got a call from him, or actually, you called him. Tell me about that. What did he say? How did he say, come pick me up? Me?
Yeah, he said, come to me and make this tires in front of me in his car and possibly put it there. All right. I got there and went to go there.
Okay.
Got something. He's like, well, you want to put it over to Fort Wayne? He gets a car to look at it. All right. I went in there and asked the clerk if he parked the car there. So he asked me to look blocking the car. Hold it there next to him and they grab his little black button wherever he goes. And we just both got in the truck.
Okay.
Went there and looked around.
Where'd you guys go from there?
We went to Fort Wayne, got on the Coliseum. He was supposed to be meeting up with some guy somewhere. He kept calling. I don't know if the guy didn't want to work or what, but he said it fell through.
At this point in the interview, we did not.
However, it remained unclear whether Leroy had any direct involvement in Wilma Schwartz's death or if he was simply assisting his brother after the fact. Leroy also stated that the day after he dropped off Daniel Sr. and Lisa King, he received a call from their mother. Investigators, seeking further clarity, requested that he call his mother during the interview.
Hello.
Hey, honey.
How we doing?
Nothing. Waiting on the sister to come get her baby.
You tell me what it is.
Hey, I got two detectives with me.
Alright. What? Yes?
We're investigating Wilma's death. We understand that you might know something about that.
Well, Daniel had called me and told me that he made a mess of his life and he just kept saying she was gone.
Okay.
Now, I didn't understand half of his conversation. Whatever phone those people are using up there is muffled when they call my phone.
Okay. But he told you she was gone.
Yes.
And that's when you called Leroy then? Is that
Yes.
okay. And that's when you told him, yeah, you probably ought to call the police.
Well, I told him that.
So you were fearful that something happened with Wilma.
Well, not only that, but I'm fearful for Daniel. I don't know what he's doing. Daniel was acting crazy. I wanted to know what the hell was going on. Where in the hell is Wilma?
At this stage of the investigation, Daniel Zerby Sr. remained the primary suspect. However, authorities were still awaiting key physical evidence to fully piece together the case and establish definitive connections. As the case against Daniel Zerby Sr. grew stronger, investigators focused on locating the murder weapon to definitively link him to the crime. A breakthrough came when authorities discovered that Daniel Sr. had been arrested in Auburn, Indiana, in possession of a 9mm handgun. The firearm was sent to the BCI crime lab, along with the bullet recovered from Wilma Schwartz's body and the spent casing found inside her vehicle. Forensic analysis confirmed that both the projectile and the casing were fired from the same 9mm handgun found in Daniel Sr.'s possession. This evidence served as the critical link tying him directly to the homicide. With this confirmation, investigators conducted a final interview with Lisa King, presenting her with the murder weapon.
At this point, that's all we have, but you can make the difference. You can make the difference to make some sort of closure for this poor little kid. If nothing else comes of this, he's going to come to our office one day and he's going to say, I want to see records of my mom. And you know what he's going to see? And I've got them here, but I'm not going to show you. They're too graphic. He's going to see pictures of his mom thrown away like trash.
But what he can see is that his mom had a friend and her name was Lisa.
Exactly.
And she stepped up and did the right thing.
At this point, that's all we have, but you can make the difference. That gun, the gun in Auburn, when they came and arrested him, and you were there, that's the gun that killed her. That's the gun that killed her.
Is that the same gun that you saw in Auburn that you recall him carrying on a daily basis?
That gun shot a bullet that fell out of her head.
And we can show that by
That's done.
science. Right.
That's done. That's case closed on that.
Meanwhile, an attempt was made to question Daniel Zerby Sr., but he refused to speak with authorities and requested legal representation, effectively halting the interview process. While this prevented further questioning, law enforcement remained focused on securing justice for Wilma Schwarz and providing closure for her family. Daniel Zerby Sr. ultimately pled guilty to the murder of Wilma Schwarz and was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. Lisa King was indicted on 2 counts of tampering with evidence. However, the charges were later dropped due to her cooperation with the investigation. Based on the collected evidence from both Ohio and Indiana, investigators concluded that Daniel Zerby harbored lingering resentment toward Wilma. Having gained independence from him, she had grown stronger and more assertive, which may have fueled his motive to remove her from his life permanently. Securing a conviction against Daniel Zerby provided a sense of justice for Wilma Schwarz and her family. While not every case reaches a definitive resolution, the dedication and collaborative efforts of law enforcement ensured that this case was brought to justice. The confirmation from the Sheriff's Department that Daniel Zerby Sr. was responsible for Wilma Schwarz's murder brought a sense of closure, but it was overshadowed by the tragic reality of her loss. While justice was served, the legacy left behind was one of sorrow. Wilma's absence meant she would never be part of her children's or grandchildren's lives, leaving an irreplaceable void. The most heartbreaking aspect was the impact on her youngest son, who was left waiting at school, unaware of why his mother never came to pick him up. The pain and unanswered questions he faced in that moment, and continues to carry, serve as a lasting reminder of the devastating consequences of this crime. What key piece of forensic evidence linked Daniel Zerby Sr. directly to the murder of Wilma Schwarz? How did surveillance footage play a crucial role in uncovering the events leading up to Wilma Schwarz's death? If you found this case breakdown intriguing, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more true crime stories. Let us know your thoughts on the case in the comments below.